Hey guys, welcome to Scalar Pi. In this video, we'll explore how to build and deploy a Scikit-Learn machine learning model with AWS Sagemaker. So let's get started. Sagemaker is a service in AWS Cloud which helps developers and data scientists to build, train, and deploy machine learning and deep learning models over the AWS Cloud. In this tutorial, we'll learn how to deploy a Scikit-Learn machine learning model in AWS SageMaker Cloud. So for this tutorial, we are using 50 startups data, which has various parameters like R&D spend, administration, marketing, the state the startup is located. Based on this, we have to predict the profit of the startup. So for this data, I'm fitting a linear regression model with AWS SageMaker and deploying it. So to start this process, we can just go to aws.amazon.com and sign into the console. Once you have logged into the console, you can go to services and open AWS SageMaker in machine learning category. Amazon SageMaker in machine learning category. So Amazon SageMaker provides various modules to manage your machine learning and deep learning models. The first module is the ground truth. Ground truth is nothing but if you want to label or annotate your data, you can use ground truth. And as you know, if you're familiar with machine learning and deep learning, and I hope you know about Jupyter notebooks, right? So if you want to create Jupyter notebook instances over the AWS cloud, you can use this notebook instances. You can create this notebook instances for training purpose, for analysis purpose, or whatever your task is, right? Next, if you want to train a model and if you want to tune your model, if you want to use various algorithms, then you can use this training jobs. And if you want to build, so once if you have a trained model and if you want to deploy the trained model, if you want to run inferences on external data, you can use this inference. Okay, so now let's get started with SageMaker by creating a notebook instance and training and deploying it. Okay, so first we'll start with creating a notebook instance. So I'll just go to notebook instance and create notebook instance. So here, the first step is you can just give your notebook instance name. I'm just giving it as test notebook. Okay. The next step is to select a instance type. So we have various instance type for machine learning service. So based on your requirement, you can select instance type. So you can just search for AWS Amazon SageMaker ML instance type. You'll be getting different instance type along with respective configuration. So based on your requirement, you can choose the respective instance type. But for now, for free tier, we have T2 medium and T3 medium for free for about 250 hours. So for that, you can just search for AWS SageMaker pricing, and here you can see the various plans available for SageMaker. And here you can see there is about we have T2 medium and T3 medium for about 250 hours. So I'll be selecting here T2 medium. So once if you selected this T2 medium, the next step is selecting the elastic inference. If you want to boost or speed up your deployed models, you can use this elastic inference. But right now, as it's a basic tutorial, I'm not using this. Using it, I'm just keeping it as none. The next step is giving permissions to the notebook. So every service in AWS needs some permission to access other services. So right now, in the same way, we are giving a IAM role to notebook. So here the very first step is you have to create a role here. So you can just click on create a new role, and here you will be getting an option to select S3 bucket. Now you may get a doubt why S3 is here, right? So as we have discussed, we are using this particular SageMaker to build and deploy our machine learning models. When we want to build a machine learning model or deploy a machine learning model, we need data, right? So the entire data, whatever we are using for building a model, and after building for deploying a model, for saving a model, you will be using S3. So S3 stands for simple storage service, where you will be storing the files and if you can manage the file using S3. So here by creating this IAM role, our service is asking to provide an access to S3 bucket such that it can access the files in the S3 bucket. So here I'm giving any S3 bucket access to this particular notebook instance. But if you want to give a specific S3 bucket, you can give the specific S3 bucket and you can just give the name of the bucket. For now, I'm giving any S3 bucket access and click on create role. So once we're done clicking on create role, your role is created for this particular notebook. And the next option you have the to select the root access and other options. So coming to the root access, you can just leave it enable, right? And there are other options. They are optional for now for the basic tutorial. So you can just directly click create notebook instance. So once if you click the create notebook instance, your notebook starts creating and right now the status is pending. So it takes some time to be in service. Meanwhile, we'll discuss about a script which we use for training our model with AWS SageMaker. So this is a script which we actually use for training our model in AWS SageMaker. Okay, so in this script we have two functions. One function is a main function, another function is a model function. Okay, this two function is one function which helps us to train our model and save our model in a model directory. Another function which loads the saved model and returned the model. Okay, so this is a specified script which we use in AWS SageMaker for training and deploying our model. So we'll just understand this script. Okay, so very first step is we have loaded our required libraries and we have our main function. And in this main function, the very first thing is we have the argument parser initialized. And in the argument parser, we have various paths taken into the argument. First, the first path is the output data directory. This output data directory is a path to save the checkpoints and the graph. And we already have the default path specified by AWS SageMaker. And we have model directory path where we save our model and model artigraphs. And we also have train data path, means where exactly we have our train data. We have to give the path of our train data in this train argument. Okay, and finally I am taking all the arguments in this args. So the very first step, the next step is we are initializing a variable file and we are taking the path of a train data. So I've already specified the train path in the train argument. I'm taking that particular train path and I'm like initializing the variable file, and in this file I have the path. Okay, so I'm reading this data file in the form of pandas data frame and I'm doing my all pre-processing stuff. So once I've done my pre-processing, I have fitted a linear regression model and I've saved the model using joblib library as model.joblib in model directory. Okay, so we are done with this function. The next function is the model function, which actually loads the saved model from the model directory and return the model. So this is what the entire script is, a basic script. So which actually one first function is which trains the model, and the second function which loads and returns the model. Okay, so here you can you can modify the script according to your use case. You can do all the pre-processing things here and you can fit your required algorithm, like whatever machine learning algorithm you're using, the scikit-learn machine learning algorithm, you can use it here and save it using joblib library. Okay, so you'll be using this script with AWS SageMaker for training our model. So we'll just see the status of our notebook instance which we created just now. So yes, the status is in service right now. So right now we can use this notebook instance for training and deploying our model. So you can just open Jupyter. So right now my Jupyter notebook instance is launching. Yes, so here my notebook instance is launched, and if you observe here, it is like the notebook instance which we regularly use, right? But right now this is not my regular notebook instance. This is the hosted notebook instance which is hosted somewhere in AWS server, and here right now I'm using in my laptop. Now we'll just start our process of building our model here and deploying it. Okay, the very first step is you have to create a new folder, and this folder is nothing but our working directory where we actually save our data for training our model, right? So you can just click on new here and folder. Okay, so you can just click folder, create a folder. Right now an untitled folder is created, so you can select this folder and rename it, and you can rename it as data. Okay, So remember, data is our working directory, which we'll be using in our code for saving this data in our S3 bucket for training our model. Okay. So if you just open this folder, and in this folder, I have to upload my CSV file, which I'm using right now, the data file, which I'm using right now. So I'll just upload here. Okay. So, and here I have my CSV file. I'm just selecting the CSV file and click on upload. So the code and the CSV, the data and everything is in the GitHub link, which is provided in the description. Okay. So can you just click on upload here, and done. I have uploaded my data. So now we can just go back. You can just click on this to go back. Right now I have data folder in which I have my startups data. The next step is we have to upload our script file, which we use for training purpose. So click on upload, and this is our script file which we have discussed just before. So if you click on upload, you can just upload your script file. So this is my script file, which I've named it as startup underscore prediction. You can just click on this and open. So here you can upload your script file also. So now this is my script file, which actually I'm using for training purpose. I'll be running this script from a notebook, which I'll be creating right now for training my model and returning my model, right? So you can just close this. And next step is we have to upload the notebook which we use for training and deploying, right? So I already created the notebook, so you can find the notebook in the GitHub link also. Okay, so I'll click on this upload, and this is my notebook. That is nothing but AWS underscore train, which I've named it .ipnb. Okay, so you can select this and open it, and you can upload it. So I've uploaded three things here. First thing is I have created a data folder and I've uploaded my data file. I have uploaded the script for training purpose, and I have a Python notebook which I'll be using for running this script and deploying my model. So we can open this notebook and just discuss the code in the notebook. Okay. So I've just opened my Jupyter notebook, and yes, this is my notebook. So we'll just go through this notebook and understand the script. Okay. So the very first step is we are importing the SageMaker library. So SageMaker is a library which we use for training and deploying our model with the SageMaker here. Okay. So the SageMaker is a library itself. And the next class, so the next library and the class which you're importing is the get execution role, which gets the role which we have created, right? We have remember, right? We have created a role while creating this notebook. So this particular get in execution role will get the role such that we can get access to the S3 bucket. So it will get the role here, and the next step is the next step is creating a SageMaker session. So to do any sort of process like training or deploying, we need a SageMaker session. So by calling the function session here, we are creating a SageMaker session, and we are storing the SageMaker session instance in SageMaker underscore session variable. Okay. The next step is to get the execution role. So whenever you call the constructor of this get underscore execution underscore role class, you can get the execution role of your role which you have created. So you can run this. So I'll be just running this. So yeah. So if you print this role, so I'll just see what is in this role actually. So here I have the ARN of the execution role which I have created in the start of creating the notebook. Okay. So whenever you call this get execution role, it gets the execution role which is assigned to this notebook. So this role helps us to give the access to train, and also to store and get access to the node buckets. Okay. The next step is uploading the train data for training. So if you observe here, actually our train data is in our data folder, right? So now the next step is what we have to do is we have to upload this train data which is in the data folder to our S3 bucket. So what we have to do is here I have train input which I have taken as a variable, and I am using SageMaker underscore session which I have created here, the SageMaker session, and in that I have a function called as upload underscore data. What this upload underscore data does is it uploads our data to the S3 bucket. So now did we create our S3 bucket? No, right? So what happens is, as we didn't create an S3 bucket, it automatically creates a default S3 bucket for us and it uploads there. Okay, so we'll run this code, and in this upload data, we have to specify our working directory here. So if you observe here, our working directory is data, right? So that is the reason I have provided data here. So you can, if your working directory is other kind of name, then you can give other name here. But right now my working directory is data. You can just give data here, and here this particular function returns the path of the particular S3 file which is stored there, and this is the path is stored in the train input. So I'll run this code. So once I run this code, right now the data folder is uploaded in the S3 buckets. We'll just go and see whether there is whether the data is uploaded or not. So you can just go back to the previous tab, and here you can go to services, and you can just search for S3. Yeah, here you have S3. I'm just opening this S3. So yes, it's loading my bucket. Yes, if you observe here, it automatically created a default bucket for us, that is SageMaker US is with some unique ID. So I'll just open this. Yeah. So if you observe here, we have our data which is uploaded. So whenever I run that code, automatically our SageMaker session uploads our data folder in the S3 bucket. And if you open this data, you can see our 50 underscore startup CSV. So what happens is when you're training your model, it fetches the data from this S3 directory, this S3 bucket, and trains our model. Okay, so let's go back to our code right now. So right now the this part is done, where it actually uploads our data in S3, and we'll just see what actually is in train input. Okay, so if I print train input here, yes, so if you observe here, we have the path of our working directory. So you can specify this path for our script for training our model, right? So this is a path where exactly is our training data. Okay, the next step is, as we have our data right now, now we have to run this script, right? So if you observe here, we have already given this script for training. Now we have to run this script by using Scikit-Learn estimator by SageMaker. Okay, so I have already written the code here. So we are importing the Scikit-Learn estimator first. So from sagemaker.sklearn.estimator, I'm importing Scikit-Learn library, which is provided by SageMaker, and here I'm giving the script path. As this code and my script path is in the same folder, I'm directly giving the script name here, that is startup underscore prediction.py, which is my script path. Okay, in this script path, you know, right, we have two functions. One function is the training function, which trains our model and saves the model in the model directory, and the second function is the function which actually returns the model from the load directory. Okay, so here I've given that particular path here. Next, I'm initializing this particular sklearn function. So in this function, I have different arguments. First argument is a script path itself, that is entry point is an argument where you have to provide the script path. So that is my script path. The next path is the train instance type. Okay, so what happens here is, whenever you start training this, what happens is it starts building our model, training our model. As we have discussed in the start of our tutorial, the training job is used for training our model, right? So for training a job, you need an instance here. So why I selected M4X large? Because M4X large is free for free tier. Okay. So we'll just see. So if you observe the SageMaker pricing here, you can observe here for training jobs, you can use M4X large or M5X large for about 50 hours of training. Okay. So that is the reason I'm using your M4X large, which is ML M4X large for training purpose. And the next parameter is a role, which I have used here for accessing my SageMaker data. Okay, and here the next step is a SageMaker session. So that is what we are giving in this thing. So I'll just run this code. Cool. So now I've created a SageMaker estimator. Now we have to fit this SageMaker estimator and on the startup data, right? So where exactly is our startup data? Our startup data is right now in the S3 bucket, right? And the path of this S3 bucket is in the train input. And if you remember our script which we have discussed, we have to provide the train path in this train argument, right? So while fitting my data here, if you observe here, sklearn.fit, I think you know about fit, right? Fit is a method which actually trains the data. Okay, so I'll just say sklearn.fit, and I'm using this train path. That train is nothing but the path which I provided here, train, and the train input, nothing but my train path of my SageMaker here. Okay, so I'm just providing my train path such that it fetches the data from my S3 bucket and trains the model. Okay, so I'll just run this. Yeah, so now your training job is started. So now you can go and get a coffee, because it takes a long time for training. So once it gets trained, we'll just see how to deploy this model. Yeah, so my training is completed. So if you observe the process here, we have different process here followed. So starting with training job, it has launched the ML instances, prepared the instances for training. It has downloaded the input data from the S3, and it has followed the various process, the training process. And at the last, you'll be getting a message as training job completed, and you'll be getting a message as training success. So if you get this message, congratulations, you have successfully built your model, you have trained your model. The next step is deploying your model. But before that, we'll just see whether like where exactly this training job is done. So we'll just go back to the console, and here you can just go to SageMaker. Okay, you can just go to SageMaker and just see the training job here. Okay, so we'll just go to training jobs here. Yes, so if you observe here, the training job has created, and you can just open this. Yes, the status is completed, and this is my training job just created, and you can just see the information about the training job here. Okay, so now I'll just go back to the code. Right now my training job is created. The next step is deploying the model. Okay, so for deploying the model, we have a function called deploy itself in the Scikit-Learn estimator which you have created. So I'll just call this deploy function, and in this deploy function, you have to specify some parameters. The first parameter is the initial instance count. So right now the instance count I provided is 1, but you can provide the number of instances you want based on your requirement. Okay. Next, I've selected the instance type as M4X large. Why? Because here I'm running the real-time inferences, right? So for real-time inferences, M4X large is free right now for the free tier for 50 hours. So I'll just go to the SageMaker pricing and just see here. So it says that for real-time inferences, you got M4X large and M5X large for about 125 hours. So you can use this M4X large and M5X large for 125 hours in free tier version to run real-time inferences. So I'll run this cell, and yes, so if you observe here, yes, my deployment started. So it takes some time to deploy. So you'll be getting this dots, means it is in progress for deploying. Okay, so let's wait. Okay, so if you observe here, my deployment is done. So if you get this exclamation mark, it means that your deployment is successful. Okay, so once if your deployment is done, we'll just see what is our deployment ID. Okay, so to see our deployment ID, you can just say deployment dot endpoint. So if you say deployment dot endpoint, you'll be getting your deployment ID. So this is your deployment ID. So by using this deployment ID, you can integrate this model to other services to make predictions, and you can use this model for like integrating to other services, right? So once if you are done with getting the endpoint, the next step is what we'll do is as you have deployed your model, we'll make predictions by using this deployed model. Okay, so if you observe here, right now we have used R&D spend, administration, marketing, state as independent variables and profit as a dependent variable, right? So by using these values, I have to predict the profit of the company, right? So what I'll do is I'll be inputting these values to my model and just say what profit I'll be getting. Okay, so I'll just do the predictions. The function is predict itself. So I'll just say deployment dot predict, and in this you have to give a two-dimensional array and you have to pass your values. As if you observe here, state is our categorical data. I have applied label and one-hot encoding here, so that is the reason state will be in the first two columns. So I'll just say 0, 1, which represents some country here. Okay, some state here, sorry, and some the values like R&D spend, the first value, and the administration cost like 25,000 some. I'm just giving a random values to check whether I'm getting the predictions or not. So if I run this, yes, I got some value. This is my profit. Okay, for these values, and this is my profit. Okay, so what we have done here, we have deployed your model, we've got your endpoint, and finally we have done your prediction here itself, right? So to see where exactly our deployment is, so you can go to Amazon SageMaker here, and here you can see in the endpoint. So if you go to inference here, you can just go to models, and in the inference you can find your model, and in the endpoints you can see your model as a service. Okay, so in this video what we have done, we have discussed how to actually train a model by using notebook instance, and we have done a training job, and we have deployed a model by using inference. Okay, the next video, the part 2 of this video, what we'll do is we'll be using this endpoint, and we'll be integrating this model to like the lambda function and the API gateway, and we'll be getting an API URL to make predictions anywhere. Okay, thank you for watching this video. If you found this video useful, like, share, comment your valuable suggestions, and subscribe to Scalar Pi channel.